Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Danny here with another beautiful blanket pattern. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how to make the riverbed blanket, this gorgeous blanket. I'm so proud of this design. And yeah, this video, it's all about this blanket. I'm gonna show you step by step how to make it. And before we get into today's video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it already. And I also want to remind you guys that you have all the instructions, the written pattern, diagram, and color sequence, everything that you need to know on my blog. The link is in the description box of this video. And now let's get started. To make this blanket, you're going to need 5 colors of your choice. I'm using Lion brand Wool Ease, which is a category 4 worsted weight yarn. And in here you can see the specifications. It comes with 180 meters or 85 grams per skein. And for this blanket, you're gonna need 2 skeins per color. And for the border, you need to add 1 skein, whichever color you choose. You need to add a 3rd skein for that color. You will also need a 5.5 millimeter hook, tapestry needle, your scissors, and 2 stitch markers. Okay, so we're gonna begin with the foundation chain. And for this particular blanket and the size that we're making, that I'm going to leave the size here on the screen, you're gonna need 152 chains. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be making a small sample so you guys can see. This is not the real size of the blanket, but yeah, go ahead and start with your foundation chain. You need 152 chains. Now that we have the foundation chain, we need to count 5 chains from the hook and insert our hook in the 5th chain. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here in the 5th chain, insert your hook and make a double crochet. And the other thing that I need you to know is that every chain at the beginning of each row will count as 1 double crochet. And for row 1, we need 1 double crochet in each chain. So go ahead and make double crochets all across your chain. Okay, so here I am at the end of my row, and now we need to change colors. And yes, we will be changing colors every single row, and that's why it makes this pattern so beautiful. And there are a couple of ways that you can change your colors. The first one would be joining the new color with the last step of your double crochet. So you will have it like this, join the new color, and then you will weave in your ends at the end of your project. But I really don't like weaving in the ends, so I have a different method that I like using. And to do that, we're going to undo the whole stitch, and now we're going to cut the yarn. And in here I'm just eyeballing, but I leave about 4 inches, I would say. And then this is for the double crochets, and then I just go ahead and cut. Again, this is eyeballing. It doesn't need to be exact. You will do this as you are crocheting. You're gonna know what you need. And now we're gonna do the invisible knot, which is basically making a knot with color B on color A, and then another knot with color A on color B. So first we have 1 knot with color B on color A, and now with color A on color B. And then we are going to pull really tight until both knots meet. And again, give it a good tug in here, really tight. And then all you gotta do is cut. And now we're going to make the last double crochet that we had in here. And as you can see, I'm finishing my stitch and I have the yarn right here, which again, this is just luck. I don't have an exact measurement, and this is also going to depend on your tension and everything, and you're going to have, you know, maybe sometimes a little bit more from one yarn than the other, and that's totally fine because we're going to miss that. We're going to hide that with the border, so don't worry about it. But again, if you don't like having these little knots in here, this method won't be for you, because you will be seeing these little knots in some parts of the blanket it might peek through the border, so that's definitely something to consider. If you don't like that, if it bothers you, then definitely use a method where you cut and weave in the ends at the end of your project, and then, you know, weave in the ends as you go, so it's not super overwhelming. But I don't like doing that, and I really like this method. The little knots won't bother me at all. Now for row 2, we're going to chain 1, and we're gonna make a single crochet in between the first and the second stitch in here, and this is known as the block stitch. We did it with the cloud blanket, so if you've seen that video, then you already know the stitch. And please remember to put a stitch marker at the beginning of each row in the first stitch to know what the first stitch is gonna be. Now you're going to chain 2, skip 3 stitches, and in between the stitches you're going to make another single crochet. Then chain 2 again, skip 3 stitches, 1 2 3, and in between the stitches you're going to make a single crochet. Now you're going to repeat this sequence all the way across. And when we get to the end, we have the 2 chains, and in here we have to do the last single crochet in between the second last and the last stitch. But hey, we need to change the color again. So cut your yarn and join color A again to finish the last stitch. We're using the same method in every single row to join the new color. And also, if you're curious about the color sequence that I'm doing in here, all of that, it's going to be on my blog. So don't remember to check that out. Okay, so here we have the last single crochet, and now we're done with the block stitch. And as you can see in here, I have my little knot finishing this stitch. And now we're going to chain 2, and remember that the chain 2 will count as 1 double crochet. So when you turn your work, I highly recommend you place a stitch marker on your second chain so that you know which one is your first stitch. And now in the chain 2 space in here, we're going to make a cluster, which is 3 double crochets together in the same space. And now we're going to do 3 rows of the granny stitch. So I have my 3 stitches in here, and now I need to add my stitch marker on the second chain because that's the first stitch of my row, and I do not want to forget it. It can be easily confused. So I got it in here, and that is my first stitch. As you can see in here, it can be very easily confused with that stitch, and we don't want to do that because we will be missing stitches if we are forgetting the last stitch. Okay, so now you're going to make a cluster stitch. Again, it means 3 double crochets in each chain 2 space from row 2. So in the space in here, you make 3 double crochets, and you're going to repeat this sequence all the way across your row. Here we are at the end of the row, and as you can see, I have my stitch marker in here, and I have 1 stitch left to do. But before we do that, we're going to change color again, and we're gonna change back to color B. I have joined color B, so I'm gonna remove my stitch marker and make my last double crochet in that last stitch. And again, I finished pretty close in here with my knot. Now for row 4, you're going to go ahead and chain 2, 1 2, turn your work, and again place a stitch marker in the second chain so you know which one is your last stitch. Now to begin this row for the granny stitch, you're going to make your second double crochet in between the last and second last stitch from the last row. And in here I forgot my stitch marker, so I'm going to put it right here again. Remember, very easy to confuse, so don't forget your stitch markers. So I count the 2 chains, and in the second chain I'm going to place my marker right there. And now to continue this row, we're going to be making the clusters again, the 3 double crochets together in the spaces between the clusters from the previous row. So in the space we have in here, we go ahead and double crochet 3 times. I'm going fast in here because I assume you guys already know how to do your double crochets. So you're going to repeat the sequence, making the clusters in each space until you're done with row 4. And in here we are now at the end of the row, and as you can see in here, we have one last space in between the last stitch, which is the chains, and the cluster, which is the 3 double crochets. And because at the beginning we had 2 stitches, now we need to end with 2 stitches as well. So here in between the cluster and the last stitch, we're going to make a double crochet, and then on your last stitch, which is the chain, you're going to make another double crochet. So remove your stitch marker and place your second double crochet in here. I've seen some people don't like making the stitch on your chain and they make it right in that space. That's totally up to you. Again, you're not going to be able to see that because you're going to be making a border. And now, of course, we have to change the color, so bring color C. So now that we have color C, we're going to make the last double crochet again on your chain 2 or in that space, it doesn't really matter. So we have the last double crochet. It's a little bit hard when you're doing it on the chains. Okay, here we go. Now for the next row, you're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and now you're going to make your first cluster in this space in here. So 3 double crochets in your cluster, and remember to put the stitch marker. I'm not gonna stop telling you that because I really don't want you guys to be missing a stitch. So in that first space, you're going to make 3 double crochets, so 1 cluster. And now you're gonna repeat the sequence, so you go in the next space and make another cluster, and so on. Continue doing this until you are done with this row. So here I have joined color B back in the picture. We remove the stitch marker and we make the last double crochet in that chain. Here we go. So now the next thing that you need to understand about this pattern, this is the sequence. This is the whole sequence that we're going to follow besides the color changes that we're making. So we start with the block stitch, which is the double crochet row, and then the single crochet with the chains row. And then we do 3 rows of the granny stitch. And that's the sequence. That's all you need to know. I know it looks like a lot, but that's literally all you need to do. And now we're going to repeat these rows over and over again. And the only thing that we're changing in here is the color sequence, which again, that color sequence is going to be on my blog. I tell you which color I use for every single row, so you're not going to miss that in case you want to make this same color sequence. So now the next row will be a row of double crochets. So for that, we're going to chain 2, turn your work. Again in here, place your stitch marker, and now we're making a single crochet in each stitch, not the middle, not the spaces like you see in here, but in every single stitch. Okay, so we have 3 stitches, we do 3, 3, 3. So we have the first double crochet, which is the chain 2. We're going to place a stitch marker in the second chain to mark that last or the first stitch. So we skip the first stitch in here because we have the chain. Now we go in the next one and we make a double crochet. Now continue making double crochets in each stitch all the way across your chain. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but in every single row, you're gonna have 149 stitches. So once in a while, it's good to count your stitches so you know you're doing a good job and you're not missing a stitch. Okay, so continue with the double crochets all the way across your row. Okay, so here we're done with the row, and we need to bring again color C before we finish this row. But I want to explain to you guys a little bit of the color sequence that we're making. So besides the first and the second row, which are going to be one color, and the last 2 rows, all the rest of the rows are going to have 3 rows per color. So in here I have 1, 2, and 3 rows that are made with color B. So now I'm done with color B, and I need to continue with color C and then with color D. Okay, so the next row will be color C, and then the following one I will introduce the new color. Again, we're done with this green emerald color because I have 3 rows, and then I'm gonna do the same with color C. When I have 3 rows of color C, then I'm done and I need to introduce the new color. And again, you have the color sequence on my blog so you can understand better how the color sequence work, and I'm also going to show you guys at the end of the video the blanket so you have a better understanding of the color changes that we're making. Okay, and remember that now we're repeating the pattern again. So this is the block stitch again. In between the first and the second stitch, we're doing a single crochet, place your stitch marker, and then chain 2, and so on and so forth. You're going to repeat the sequence of the 5 rows that we just did. I'm just showing you in here one more time how that looks like. So in here we have again the row, the 2 rows that makes the block stitch, and then we would have after this row 3 rows of the granny stitch. Again, all the details, you guys, on the blog, written pattern, diagram, basically everything is going to be there. But please feel free to send any questions via email, Instagram, or leave them here on YouTube. I'm so happy to always answer your questions, especially when I just upload the video, because I'm super active in that moment. But yes, now we're going to continue with the sequence and the color changes until our blanket is completed. So you're gonna make 103 rows in total for this blanket. And once you're done with your 103 rows, you're going to make your border. So I have chosen in here the color that I want to use for the border, and that's the color that I have joined in here for the last stitch of the row. And now for the border, in here you can have fun, make whatever border you would like, but I'm gonna show you the one I made for this blanket. I feel like it looks really cute, and it's also super simple to make. You're gonna start with a chain 1, turn your work, and then you're going to make a half double crochet all around your blanket. You heard me right, all around your blanket. So remember to put your stitch marker so you know which is your first stitch, and now continue with half double crochet all the way around. When you get to your corner, you're gonna work as follow. You're going to make 2 half double crochets in the same stitch, then you're going to chain 2 to create the corner, turn your work or your blanket, and make another 2 half double crochets in the same stitch to create the corner. Now you're gonna continue down on the side of your blanket with the half double crochets, and in here, per each row of double crochet, you're going to make 2 half double crochets, and per each row of single crochet, which is the row with the single crochet in the chains, you're going to make 1 half double crochet. So in this first row, we're going to make 2 half double crochets, 1 and 2, then go down to the next row, which is this one, and you're gonna make 2 half double crochets in there as well. The next one, another double crochet row, So we're going to make 2 half double crochets, and in here we have 1 row of the single crochet, so you're going to make 1 half double crochet in there. And now you get the sequence. You're gonna do that all the way around, and when you get to the corner, you're going to do the corner in the same way as we did the first corner. Then the bottom of your blanket, you're gonna follow the number of chains that you have, and then on the other side you're gonna repeat the process all the way around your blanket. When you get to the end of your round, remember that we have 1 half double crochet in that first stitch. So in the same stitch, you're going to make the 2 half double crochets, the 2 chains, and then only 1 half double crochet, because we already have 1 from the beginning to create the corner. And now we're not going to join the round with a slip stitch or anything like that. We're going to continue working in the round, and we're going to make another round of half double crochets. Once you're done with the round 2, the same thing we did for round 1, we're gonna go and make a round 3, which is the final round. And in here we're just making little waves, little picot stitches. We're going to skip 2 stitches, and in the third stitch, so 1, 2, in the third, you're going to insert your hook, single crochet, then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and go back in the same stitch and single crochet. Now we're going to repeat the same thing. We skip 2 stitches, and in the third, insert your hook, single crochet, then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and go back in the same stitch and single crochet again. Now you're gonna repeat this all the way around, and I'm gonna show you how we do it on the corners. So here I got to the corner, and luckily I have 2 stitches before the corner, so that's great. I'm going to skip those 2 stitches, and then I'm going to treat the corner exactly like we did before, but instead of doing the half double crochets, I'm going to do just single crochet, chain 2, then 2 single crochets, and I have my corner again. Now I'm going to skip 2 again and continue the sequence all the way around as well, and the same thing for the corner. You might not get lucky and have the right number of stitches before the corner, so you can always add 1 or 2 stitches if you need to in order to get to the corner how you need to do it. Borders are tricky sometimes, especially when we don't have the right number of stitches. We don't know how many stitches we're gonna have, so that's okay. You can always, like I said, add 1 or 2 stitches just so you meet your stitch, the placement of your stitch where it needs to go. Okay, so here I'm done, and this is my beautiful blanket, and in here, as you can see on the sides, you can still kind of see the knots that we made. Once you make the border, you will have a defined front and back. This will be my back, this will be my front. So that's just inevitable. That's gonna happen once you make your border. That's gonna determine which one is your front and the back, or your wrong and your right side. And again, you still are going to see a little bit those little knots. So if that bothers you, please don't use the joining method that I showed you guys. Definitely use the within the end thingy. Again, I don't care, it doesn't bother me, so that's why I'm using this. And then another tip that I want you to know is that if you're using any kind of acrylic blend or acrylic, just 100% acrylic, please wash and dry your blanket, especially if you're using Wool Ease by Lion Brand. Put it in the washing machine, put it in the dryer machine, and it's gonna come out so soft. You're not even gonna believe it's the same yarn, and I love this yarn for that reason. Every blanket that I make with this yarn is just so incredibly soft after I wash it and I dry it. And your size will also change a little bit. It might get a little bit bigger, so have that in mind. Okay, so now before I let you guys go, remember that you have also the PDF pattern in the description box, the link to purchase the pattern. It's going to include every single size, all the way from Lovey, which is a teeny tiny blanket, to king size. So if that's something that interests you, go ahead and purchase the pattern. That also helps me a lot, so thank you in advance. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!